Illinois converted. Nebraska didn't. They have yet to win an overtime game since 2014, Matt. What's the mood for Husker fans?
Yeah, Darren, it was a movie Nebraska fans have seen so many times on repeat over and over. And it looked like for a second there, maybe that was going to change. You get the fumble from Luke Altmaier there in the fourth quarter. Nebraska gets the ball back in good field position. They put together a pretty strong drive that falls just short. Again, the Nebraska kicking woes continue, this time on the leg of John Hall, who can't get that one to go through the uprights. And even though it did go to overtime, that bad juju seemed to carry over.
But it comes down to they're 3-1. They go on the road against Purdue. It's not all doom and gloom.
No, definitely not. I mean, this was a big test, first Big Ten matchup for the Huskers. And for the most part, 3.5 quarters, they played really quality football against a very tough team, which, by the way, deserves a lot of credit in this one. The Fighting Illini really showed out on both offense and defense. I think both their coordinators made fantastic adjustments against Tony White, Marcus Satterfield, and, of course, Matt Rule. But this is not the end of the world for the Huskers by any means. It's just now time to move on to the next one.
It went off the rails. They got a sack. They got another sack, and it was 3rd and forever. What did you see from the defense?
From the Huskers defense, they're just gassed. Like we said, the law of attrition really just caught up to them. They couldn't really corral Altmaier in the pocket. He was really evasive, able to get out of there, create some plays, and give them a little more length. And I think that was ultimately their downfall. They failed to be able to get into the backfield the way that, by the way, Illinois' defensive line was shutting down the Huskers' run game for most of this evening. And then you saw on the final drive of overtime, Dylan Raiola and the Huskers' offense going backwards, the wrong direction. Illinois just able to hold out a little bit longer than Nebraska in this one.
Again, credit them. They deserve all the credit in the world because they did make the 5-star recruit look like a true freshman.
Well, I really do want to give Raiola some credit. He made some eye-popping throws down the stretch there in the third quarter, especially on that drive. Isaiah Nair quickly becoming his favorite target without a doubt, but Thomas Fidone the second also with a couple of big grabs down the stretch here as well. But when push came to shove there in the fourth quarter, we saw the 3-and-out drive where he fumbled the ball twice, fortunate to actually fall on both of them. No turnover, but then, of course, the overtime drive was really the downfall for the Huskers. As, again, going the wrong direction, trying to maybe do too much and going backwards, and it ends up being the intentional grounding, costing them another 15. And before you know it, Nebraska's in their own territory on overtime.
They threw 2 flags in a row, and then they picked it up and said, sorry, never mind, there's no flags. Well, then why are you throwing the flags? There was a helmet-to-helmet. They didn't call. It was suspect at best. What did you see on that last play from up top, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it's questionable. And like you said, you never want to blame the refs. And here's what it really comes down to. You never want to put yourself in a position where you have to rely on the refs to throw a flag or to get a call going your way. And unfortunately, that is what Nebraska did. They backed themselves into that position with that drive that they had in overtime. And, of course, the defense, the Black Shirts, allowing Illinois to score on just 2 plays and take the lead and put all the pressure on that true freshman, on that offense that really did some nice things today, but I think just kind of ran out of gas.
And, you know, if you have a clean pocket, you're able to just pick, point. They get dressed up, put on their pants one leg at a time, but they pick apart defense just like everyone.
Yeah, sure. And, you know, the secondary for the Huskers obviously doing their best to contain the Illinois receivers. Luke Altmaier, like I said earlier, did a really good job of extending plays, and that's a credit not only to the offensive line, but for Altmaier himself, who was able to get out of the pocket, roll out, be patient, find an open receiver down the field. And that offensive line, by the way, also did a really good job opening up some holes for their running backs, particularly through the middle of the interior of the defensive line in the early part of the game, and then that opened the outside running game for the Fighting Illini. Now you put it all together, and it's a Husker defense that just got worn out by the end of this one.
They were supposed to be all stars aligning 4-0 heading into Purdue next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, that isn't the case. But this is the motto for this Husker team. It has been since Matt Rule came in last year, 1-0. We go 1-0 every week. You see that slogan littered all around Memorial Stadium, in the underbelly of the stadium here, posted on signs and pillars, go 1-0. Matt Rule will always say that, and his players are singing the same tune. Both Ty Robinson for the defense taking accountability, Dylan Raiola taking accountability, even said, I'd put the loss of this one on my back. That's the kind of leadership you need to have on both sides of the ball, and it all trickles down from the head coach, and it seems like these guys are all on the same page. you go home, you lick your wounds, you have a good cry, and then hopefully you get on that plane going to Purdue next weekend, and you hopefully go 1-0.
Matt, what are some positives to this?
Yeah, well, look, Dylan Raiola was tested today, and he didn't melt under pressure. Yes, overtime was a bit of a fiasco. There's no doubt about it. There's some balls there he needs to throw away. There's some plays there where he needs to know, take the sack for 5 yards, not for 15 yards where you're going the complete other direction. So this was a learning opportunity, I think, for the young Raiola, and despite that, still threw for 297 yards, a couple dimes, a couple touchdowns. We think he found his new favorite target in Isaiah Nayer. So big day for Nayer, for Thomas Fidone II, and the rest of the receiving crew, including Jamal Banks as well. The defense, look, everybody deserves one night off, right? Unfortunately, it happened tonight against Illinois. The Black Shirts are better than this. We know that. They're going to tighten things up. Tony White, it's going to be mad going into that Purdue game. I would not want to be a Boilermaker.